And one of the things I started working on back in early 2000s was utilizing screen projection and holographic simulation. And we ended up using that to do the recreation of Tupac Shakur as a hologram at Coachella. It was fun. We worked directly with Dr. Dre and his team, and his vision for doing that was originally supposed to be a tour for Eminem. And we developed the idea for him to take it out on the road, and then that didn't come to fruition. So he came back and said, we have an idea that we want to run by you. And so we thought about it, and I said no to him 3 times. And and he just looked at me and said, no, we're going to do this.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of East Valley Business, the podcast. I am joined by Nick Smith with AV Concepts. I'm going to have you share a little bit about yourself. So tell us a little bit about you, and then maybe a little bit about AV Concepts and how the two came to be.
Okay, thank you. Well, we started the company in 1987. I worked for another audiovisual company at the time, okay. And we saw a great opening. Back then on the A's, I think there was only 1 or 2 real AV companies, and I was working at one of them. And I was very entrepreneurial, and I lived in East Valley, and I saw an opportunity as it was growing. There were several properties. I think the Embassy Suites just opened on Rural. The Doubletree, as a Hilton then, Mesa just opened up, and then there was the Doubletree over here in Tempe. And nobody was servicing those properties. And as part of the audiovisual space in Arizona, we were doing all the things in Scottsdale. And I said, what about the East Valley? And the owner of the company, he wasn't real interested in it because all the bigger meetings were in Scottsdale.
Right. Yep.
And but he said, you want to go for it? Go for it. And so I started servicing all the properties and got to know the East Valley really well. And he just didn't have any interest in continuing with it. So I departed and started AV Concepts.
Nice. So AV Concepts, and you and I have had this conversation, but for the listeners that are out there, obviously you've got a footprint in the East Valley. Are you elsewhere? Do you guys have clients in any other parts of the state or the U.S.? Where are you guys found? Yeah,
so we started in the East Valley. I actually started out of my home in Chandler, and then quickly moved to Tempe. So we rented a space over on Hologram, and then moved over to Park, and then quickly grew out of that. And then in 1993, I believe it was, we bought the land over off of Priest and Rio Salado.
Yep.
And at the time, there was nothing there. It was barren. And the river bottom was what is Rio Salado or Tempe Town Lake now.
Yep.
And it was all industrial and commercial and wrecking yards. And so we bought that land, I think, for $3 a foot. Built our building there.
So a little bit more now, right?
Yeah, a little bit more. and then grew it from there. But it's been over there for quite a while.
So tell us a little bit, because it was mind-blowing to see it in person, but tell us a little bit about your space in Tempe, whether you want to share square footage, but what you have there and what you're able to do out of that space.
Yeah. Well, to answer your first question, yes, we started in the East Valley, and then we grew, and then we were contracted with the city of Phoenix to be in-house at the Phoenix Convention Center. So we've been in there for about 25 years. And we gained a lot of new clients through being in these properties, and continued to grow with these clients and then go on the road with them. So we ended up doing quite a bit nationally, and followed groups all around the country and some of the largest pharmaceutical, automotive, tech companies. But in our Tempe space, we mostly warehouse, and all of our technical teams are there. We do R&D there, and so it's our hub for distribution. Through the years, we kind of grew away from the Valley a bit. I got a little bit too big nationally, and lost a little bit of focus here locally. And I actually moved over to San Diego for a short time, opened up a design office, creative office, and R&D space over in San Diego.
Okay.
Stayed there, ran that for a bit, and then decided to refocus on the Valley and brought everything back here.
Well, we're happy that you're refocusing on the Valley. Definitely some huge highlights for AV Concepts. Don't know if you want to share any of those, maybe from a certain music festival that people may know? Anything you want to share where people may have seen or have looked at some of the work you guys have put together?
Yeah, most of our work is corporate. So we do, like I say, national sales meetings, incentive meetings, special events. But our technology, I'm really driven by really unique activations. And I feel that, the ROI of an event is really the what you take away, the emotion, the experience.
Absolutely.
So we totally focus on, how to use technology to really enhance that experience. So doing that, I've got some great technical people, and we just dream up ideas and we think about things that can be done. And one of the things I started working on back in early 2000s was utilizing screen projection and holographic simulation. And we ended up using that to do the recreation of Tupac Shakur as a hologram at Coachella. Yeah. I think that's probably what you're referring to.
That's exactly it. Yeah, that was to say it was ahead of its time was probably an understatement. It would still be ahead of its time today, but that was just an amazing use of technology. And clearly, I have friends that I know that were there. That it was just a buzz for the event for years to come.
It was fun. And we worked directly with Dr. Dre and his team, and his vision for doing that was originally supposed to be a tour for Eminem. And we developed the idea for him to take it out on the road, and then that didn't come to fruition. So he came back and said, we have an idea that we want to run by you. And so we thought about it, and I said no to him 3 times. And and then he just looked at me and said, no, we're going to do this. And we had to figure out how to do this within the confines of the it was outside, yeah. It was in the desert, it was windy. This technology just didn't work well in those kind of conditions. And he said, no, we're going to do it. And I said, okay. So we ended up designing it, making it work. And we had no idea that it was going to take off virally like that. We had done Janet Jackson on tour. We designed for Celine Dion in her residency in Vegas. So we'd done other things with the technology, but it never made the headlines like this.
Right. What's amazing about that is how viral that went and how long ago that was compared to today where, smaller things have taken off and gone viral. I always think about if that were to have happened today or, a year from now, what that would look like. In that same vein, as you look at innovation, what can you say you're seeing coming for meetings and events industry in terms of innovation, and how have you guys positioned with the AV Concepts to be aligned with that?
I get asked that a lot because I do things like this, and people think I know the answer to the future. But the reality is it's pretty simple when it comes to meetings and events and just gatherings. And we're all human. We like to have a great time, great experience, and the need for meetings is to leave with an impression, remember it, enjoy it. And I think the technologies are really just focused on that. When the pandemic hit and everybody said that, meetings are dead, everybody's going virtual, everybody's going to work from home, everything's going to be virtual. The one thing they forgot was that we're humans, and social interaction is really important to us. And if we didn't have that, we couldn't exist. So I was never worried about that. So the things that we focus on from a technology standpoint really are what else can we do to engage and enhance that emotion. And so obviously there's a lot of technologies that have advanced, projection. We're one of the first on the scene to do projection mapping. We used to projection map buildings. We projection mapped a aircraft carrier once.
Oh, wow.
And that was before it became popular. And then that became the thing, and then LED came along. And so it's always changing. A lot of robotics and camera systems and tracking, and a lot of gesture recognition. AI is a buzzword, but you don't really, I don't see the application that much with limited use. We did end up doing an AI project for the AI college in Florida during the pandemic, which was really interesting.
What did that look like?
It was the front entrance of a college, Miami-Dade Community College. They built a artificial intelligence campus. And so they had a vision, and the architect drew it up as this holographic floating head as you walk into the space that you could talk to. And it would respond back, and you could get directions, you could ask it questions. And it was a great visual piece. But when it came to building that, the architect said, well, it was just a render. And so so the campus was scrambling, and they called around. Of course, our name is on everything with holograms, so they called us thinking that we could build the architect's
Just
dream.
whip it right up for them.
But we ended up doing it, and kind of a beam me up Scotty kind of feel when you walk in the room. This big cylinder there with a particle head, and we had to develop and build both the creative design the space and develop the software to manage it, and then work with the AI center for them to be able to take that information and keep developing it.
Nice. Well, so you say, as much as you're saying you don't really know what the future is, can't predict it, it sounds like you guys are creating quite a bit of it. You guys are on the cutting edge and leading in a lot of that. For a lot of our service-based organizations are seeing a challenge hiring and retaining staff.
Mm-hmm.
Are you seeing that at all in terms
Absolutely.
of you are?
Yep.
And how are you guys managing that? You guys staying ahead of it?
We lock the doors and don't let them out. No, it's it's a different world, and they have a lot of choices, and we just try to make it a great workplace, make it fun. And, people love the technology. They love seeing, when we do something like the projects I just mentioned too, they like being a part of that. So you really, it helps to create great experiences for your own team as well as your customers, so that it helps retain that. But, it's a gig economy too. Everybody wants to go out and try something, and there's a lot of turnover and a lot of movement in the industry. But we retain quite a few people, and we do a good job at recruiting from the local colleges and bringing interns in and helping them with a new career choice. So there's a lot of loyalty there. So that helps us retain that as well, that we give them an opportunity to do something that they didn't think they could do.
I love hearing that, because one of the, finding and retaining a qualified workforce is by far top 3 concern for pretty much every business. I mean, we've had elected officials, we've had folks in school that are having trouble finding and retaining teachers. We've had small businesses that are, pizzerias all the way up to multinational companies, and they all have that same challenge. And we're trying to do a lot of work within workforce to, in terms of talent attraction, but also the pipeline. So hearing that you're looking at partnering with schools and hiring local, that we love to hear that. Anything we can do to help facilitate that, we'd be happy to do so. Couple of final questions. As you're looking, when you and I talked, you talked about increasing your presence and footprint, but also giving back within the region. What does that look like for you guys, and what are some of the things that people can come to expect from AV Concepts?
Well, we love partnering, and everything that we can do. As you get older in life, you look back at what are you going to be proud of? What accomplishments did you have?
Yep.
What can you hang your hat on? And I look at the people that we've helped, the people we helped build their careers and their families, and they've gone on. And so just thinking about that, things that we can do back for the community as well. Anything that is a great cause that really helps drive, just a better sense of community, we'll get involved with.
Love to hear that. So this is more on the advice for folks that are out there listening. Maybe they're the meeting planners, or they handle, their HR and they handle events within the organization. What piece of advice could you give to them from an AV concept standpoint, or just AV in general? As costs, seems like with food and AV, those two costs they increase, but I think oftentimes folks wouldn't say, you know what, for this event, instead of doing chicken and beef, we're going to just do peanut butter and jelly because we need to cut back. But oftentimes people will say, for our AV, maybe we won't have this element or that element. And as you've alluded to, the way your event looks and feels has every bit to do with the content that's provided there. So what kind of advice would you give to those that are maybe budgeting for the future and looking at events in terms of maybe what they should really prioritize and maybe what they can do without?
I think the biggest mistake I see when it comes to pricing AV is not really telling people what's important to you. If you call somebody up and give them an RFP or tell them what gear you want, you're going to get similar answers. And those answers aren't going to help you focus on what your goals are. So if you really open up and you find a few providers, find the ones that really ask you questions. What's important to you?
Right.
What does success look like for you? If you could do anything you wanted, what would it look like regardless of cost? Because you can start getting down to really what's important to the customer, and you can drive different solutions. A lot of times people will come and they'll say, I need this gear and I need, this size screen and these speakers. And we don't really know what they want to accomplish.
So it's more like specs as opposed to the outcome and impact.
Mm-hmm. Share your vision. And there's different ways of getting there. And sometimes you'll be amazed that it'll be less than what you thought it was going to be to begin with a better outcome.
That's great advice. So we're coming up on time here, but wanted to say anything else you want to plug for AV Concepts, something exciting on the pipeline or just in general?
No, we're celebrating 37 years and, we're really excited about where it's going in the Valley. It's amazing. I lived here most of my life. And I moved here when I was 5 years old with my family, and I moved away for a little bit. But I've seen the growth here, and it's tremendous. And I'm so excited about what's going on right now that, we're here, we're a part of it, and it's only getting better.
Well, thank you for joining me today, Nick. Thank you all for listening to this episode of East Valley Business, the podcast. Your host, Colin Diaz, and look forward to you joining us for the next one.